All right, I think we're about ready to get started. Thanks everyone for being here. My name is Laura Hammond. I'm with the City of Eugene. Today we're going to have Mayor Vinis, Councilor Greg Evans, and Chief Skinner available to say a few words, and then once they're done, we'll be open for questions and answers for a little bit. So thanks for being here, and we'll start with Mayor Vinis.
Thank you, Laura. Good morning. After almost 2 months of peaceful protests in support of Black Lives Matter, we are faced again with violence and destruction in our city's downtown core. It is a credit to our Eugene Police Department and to the organizers of 2 months of protests that we have, as a community, been able to listen and begin to plan constructive steps forward. I'm proud of our community's ability to do this. It is not easy. The anger is real, the need for reform and action is real, and we must keep this work front and center. I have 3 things to say. First, these violent actions are unacceptable and unworthy. The antagonizing presence of heavily armed counter-protesters, including one who shot his gun in the middle of the event on Saturday, have only added unnecessary fuel to create a more volatile situation. Their actions are not welcome here. A smaller group who were not affiliated with the larger demonstration took advantage of a peaceful protest to incite violence and destruction. These actions are intended to derail constructive progress, and they are intended to increase tension. This is not a path we will follow. Second, our city is embracing the work before us to address police reform and structural racism. Strong new leadership has emerged through the Black Lives Matter movement. Our police chief and his department have thoughtfully and candidly voiced and acted on their commitment to creating a safety system in which all people in our community can feel safe and well served. Our City Council has acted swiftly and responsively to engage communities of color in reviewing police policies and the city's investments in community safety. This work will continue and strengthen. It will not be deterred or derailed by acts of destruction like those we experienced on Saturday night. Third, the businesses of our downtown core are our community's lifeblood. As we recover from the economic impacts of the pandemic, we will depend on these local employers to rebuild and to bring people back to work. There is no equity of opportunity if there are no businesses upon which to build those opportunities. We will protect the center of our city because it is our center and it holds our future. Our police department will do the work they are commissioned to do. They will hold people accountable for criminal behavior, and they will protect the rights and lives of peaceful protesters. And now, I am proud to turn the podium over to my colleague, Councilor Greg Evans.
Thank you, Mayor Vinis, for those words of encouragement and support. I want to say 3 things. First and foremost, the activities that have been happening over the weekend as far as Black Lives Matter is concerned, and the violence that has occurred and the vandalism that has occurred will not be tolerated. We will not tolerate this. We're going to act substantially, and we're going to be focused in terms of supporting supporting Black Lives Matter movement where there are peaceful protests. And there have been peaceful protests. There are a few bad actors out there that have attempted to take this movement over in Eugene and some other places for their own purposes. And we're they're going to do what they want to do. However, if they're going to engage in violence, they're going to engage in vandalism, property destruction, we're not putting up with that. There's zero tolerance for that. Our police department is working hard to de-escalate the situations that are out there. They have demonstrated restraint in addressing these issues. The first situation that we had several weeks ago taught us many lessons, but this has been ongoing, and I think that it will continue to be ongoing. The council has done a couple of things. The first thing that we did was craft a message in support of Black Lives Matter, the movement, and the issues that these folks are trying to address. The second thing is council, back last Monday, we passed a bill, if you will, to formulate a new ad hoc committee of short duration that is going to be looking at policies, procedures, tactics of the police force, and reviewing that. And that committee is going to be made up of predominantly people of color. We have asked Black Unity to be part of that, the NAACP, LULAC, Blacks in Government, most of the big organizations of color in this community are behind us. And we're going to find solutions. We're going to work with Chief Skinner closely to make sure that Eugene is a model, and it will be a model for other cities to follow. And we're going to make this the most equitable place in America. I promise you that. And the effort is there. 6 out of 8 of us signed a statement in support of Black Lives Matter. But we are only supportive for the peaceful activities that these folks are engaged in. No violence, no justice, no peace. If we're peaceful, nonviolent, then we will get to justice. All right. And I'm going to turn the podium over now to Chief Skinner. Chief Skinner.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. I'll try and talk loud so that you can hear me, and then, of course, when I'm done, we'll have an opportunity for some questions and answers, as I'm sure you have those questions. It's a busy weekend for Eugene Police Department. We spent all weekend trying to create space for people to be heard, and for the voices to be heard, and for the important issues to be raised around how we manage racial inequality and police reform. And for the most part, people did a really good job of coming out and letting their voices be heard. And it's unfortunate that yet again we're having a conversation about a small group of individuals that after 3+ hours of being heard felt like what being heard meant to them was to damage local businesses and public property, and to throw rocks at police officers, damaging police cars and hitting officers with rocks. And so I think it's important to know that we have those two groups out there, and that we continue to support people's ability to be heard. And we have done that since late May, the first night that we had the riotous behavior at 7th and Washington. The Eugene Police Department's at a place right now where we continue to manage these the very best we can. But maybe more importantly, the Eugene Police Department is in a place where we're ready to be at the table and have productive conversations and talks about outcomes, about what policing looks like in Eugene, about what community safety looks like in Eugene. And not on necessarily on a national level, because it's not a one-size-fits-all type of proposition. It's about what fits in Eugene, because we are unique. It's not about taking policies and philosophies from the East Coast or other regions. It's about Eugene, and it's about what this community wants when they think about community safety. And so we're ready to put our energy into that. And we're ready to step back from having to manage protests around this particular issue and put our energy into sitting at the table with people that want to have the kind of conversations that come to some really good outcomes on this police department and community safety. So I look forward to that opportunity. I know the council last Monday took the first steps in providing a framework for us to do that. I'll look forward to being a part of that wherever that fits and wherever that's appropriate. And looking forward to some of the outcomes and the good dialogue that that's going to produce. So with that, let me open this up for questions, because I'm sure you have some around the weekend's activities.
Chief Skinner, last night a man was arrested.
Hi, James. How are you?
Good morning.
Good.
A man was arrested last night at Olive and Broadway at approximately 10:50 last night for allegedly pulling a gun on protesters who were outside the jail. This individual is not booked in Lane County Jail as of this morning. It's going on nearly 12 hours. There's no press release to this issue. Who is this person, and were they not booked last night?
Yeah, we did make an arrest last night. I actually personally witnessed the arrest after the individual was reported to unholster a weapon in amongst the protesters. The initial reports were that he pointed the gun at somebody, which is a crime in the state of Oregon, menacing. We made that arrest. I do not have the details of whether he was lodged or just cited and released. I know this weekend we had a lot of capacity-based releases in the jail. There's some concerns around housing inmates in this COVID environment. And so I'll have to get back to you or get you some more information, but I can confirm that we did take somebody into custody for that crime.
They were wearing a helmet that said press. I asked one of your officers last night if they knew if he was legitimately a member of the press or if this was somebody of some kind of subterfuge.
Right.
Were you able to confirm this was a member of a legitimate media organization?
I will tell you that based on what I've witnessed personally is there are dozens of people that are wearing what they believe to be press credentials, whether it's a t-shirt that says press, a homemade identification card, on both the initial protesters and anybody that would be considered a counter protester. Both are doing that. It's concerning because it's really hard to identify the legitimate members of our press when they do that. Luckily, we've not had any conflict, but we've seen that on both sides. A lot of people showing up wearing uniform, for lack of a better term, that identifies them as press.
There were members of the Proud Boys last night who, after the arrest, came to your officers and asked if he could be released to them. Obviously, he was not. Is there any reason to believe that this individual is affiliated with any particular political affiliate group?
Don't have any information about that, James. Have no idea who this individual is affiliated with.
There was allegations that he was more interested in taking photos and video of the protesters themselves as means of identification for some cause. Is there any reason to believe he's a member of a agent of the state of some kind, whether it be local, federal, or anything to that end?
No information on that. He certainly is not affiliated with the Eugene Police Department. Any other questions?
Chief, there was an organized effort over the weekend by a small group called Antifa. They allegedly said they were going to be in Seattle, Eugene. They were in Seattle, they were in Portland. Can you talk a little bit about what happened in downtown Eugene and if there was any group that said they were going to be at the courthouse at 8 o'clock that you could have maybe identified?
So what we can confirm is we had some intelligence that we'd have people in from out of town. I don't know if that actually materialized or not. Of the individuals we arrested on Saturday, all of those had local Eugene addresses, so we did not arrest anybody from outside of the area on Saturday. But we were monitoring very closely the chatter and some of the social media content that suggested that we'd have people from out of town coming down to Eugene, but I'm just not sure if we actually saw that happen or not.
Does that concern you when you see posts like that identify themselves and say they're coming to an area to...
Well, certainly it concerns me, because what happens is when you have people coming in from out of town, this isn't their community. They don't want to leave it any better than they found it. They get to come in, do what they want to do, and leave without any recourse for the most part. Eugene police is going to take care of Eugene streets, and Eugene people should be taking care of Eugene community. And so anytime I have people coming in from out of town, I'm concerned, because I don't think they have a vested interest in being able to be productive.
There have been rumors about federal officers being in Eugene, akin to what's going on in Portland. Is there any truth to that at this point?
What I can tell you is any federal officers that have been deployed here inside the federal building and have not exited the federal building. I've been really clear. The Eugene Police Department takes care of Eugene streets. And we work with our federal partners on a variety of things. Human trafficking, internet crimes against children, drug enforcement, domestic terrorism, all of those things are really important to our partnership with the federal government. But when it comes to protecting the streets of Eugene, that's our job. And they've been really respectful about that. And so while they come down and occupy the federal building, there's been no deployment strategy to have them exit that building.
Chief Skinner, perhaps Mayor Vinis as well, to that issue of what's going on in Portland. This community obviously went through a lot in late May and early June, but for the better part of July, police headquarters, the boards and fencing were gone. A lot of things had de-escalated, for lack of a better term, and now we're back to seemingly where we were.